We're headed towards the midterm elections. Will the GOP want to play ball with the Democrats and give them a joint win on infrastructure?
That's going to be the question. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk from the administration and even the congressional leadership that, you know, there's an opportunity to do something bipartisan, and infrastructure has always been kind of a bipartisan issue that the parties work together on, and that there's space to do something in 2018. But as you said, we're going to see exactly when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, you know, whether we can actually get a deal that both Democrats and Republicans can sign off on.
What might a deal like that look like, Mark? Any ideas what concessions would have to be made on either side?
Well, I think the big fight's going to be over how much indirect federal spending is part of this bill. I mean, the president's talked about $1 trillion infrastructure plan, but really what the administration is thinking about doing and what we're told they're going to propose is kind of turning the funding on its ear. And we've sort of been relying on the federal government to provide funding, and what the administration is going to propose is, you know, essentially shifting more of that responsibility to the states and localities. The idea is that the federal government doesn't own much infrastructure, that the states and localities do, so the federal government can be a partner, but really plays the best role in getting a lot more infrastructure done if it incentivizes states and localities to come up with their own funding streams, the revenues to produce their own projects. So the administration is going to propose sort of this carrot approach of, hey, we're going to give you some money if you come with your own funding. And the pushback already we're hearing is Democrats in particular say, well, the federal government needs to do more. These are big projects. We're going to need a lot more in federal spending. So the fight's going to be how much in direct federal spending can we actually get in a bill that Democrats can support, but isn't too much that Republicans will say, well, that adds too much to the deficit, or we don't want to spend that kind of money.
House Republicans also seem keen to put forth other issues such as welfare reform. What other issues could get on the way of actually having a compromise on infrastructure?
Well, part of it's just the upcoming midterm elections, and as you mentioned, you know, the political questions about whether Democrats are going to want to give the president any kind of victory here versus having to go back to their districts and say, well, we debated infrastructure but didn't get anything done this year. And like I said, I think the fight's going to be over what is that sort of magic number of how much in federal spending can get enough Democrats on board but not sort of cause enough Republicans to not want to support the bill and leave it short of passage. And another big point of this bill is going to be streamlining regulations and environmental permitting. The idea is it takes too long to get projects for approval and done, and the bill is going to talk a lot about trying to speed up that process. And that's something Republicans in particular, and I think Democrats as well, will be interested in.